Actually, it looks like it is recording. My bad.
I think I just started the recording.
Okay, great.
So building plans and construction documents are used when we're evaluating a building or a process that is new. So a lot of times we work with existing processes, existing facilities, but especially for utility incentive programs, new construction is a critical area to evaluate energy efficiency. It's a lot better to design things to be efficient than it is to retroactively apply efficiency measures to them. So to do that, we have to be familiar with construction documents. These are the blueprints that the architectural team delivers and are used to actually build the building. So typically, construction documents come in either 2 or 3 sets. The permit set and the bid set are often consolidated. There's often only one set of documents. It's both the permit set and the bid set. The permit set, if it is independent, is typically about 50% complete and is used to submit to the local municipality to get permits for the building permits and the other permits required to begin construction. The bid set is what is sent to contractors and subcontractors who would then be in charge of constructing the building. And that allows them to prepare their bids if it is a bidding process. And then construction sets are the 100% complete set of documents. They are put together by the architect after the contractor is selected, and they should be 100% complete. And then occasionally afterwards, there will be a second or an update to the construction set, which will be the as-built construction set, if there are any changes between what is designed and what is actually built. And they contain a number of sheets representing the various members of the design team. A sheets are for the architectural sheets, C and or S sheets for civil and structural, L sheets are for the landscaping, M sheets for mechanical, P sheets for plumbing, E for electrical, and there could be additional sheets as needed in various projects. There could be fire protection, there could be a set of demolition sheets if an existing building is being torn down or there's some kind of demolition going on. There could be sheets for data infrastructure if it's some kind of data center or if there are sophisticated audiovisual equipment. There could be others depending on what processes are going on. There could be industrial or process specific sheets if it's some kind of manufacturing facility. Those are determined by what's going on. And then I'll show you some drawings and kind of walk through them. So I'm only going to show you a couple selections of a set of building documents from an apartment complex. These, in fact, typically can be 200 to 300 pages, but the cover sheet, the very first page is what we have here. They will usually have a rendering or a 3D schematic of the building. The cover sheet will typically give contact information and identify the owner of the building or the developer, the architect, and the engineering consultants who worked on the project. So we see the civil and the structural engineers with the people who did it and their phone numbers, the mechanical and the electrical engineers, the landscape architect, and the interior design. These will be identified here on the very cover page, and they typically are also identified along the bar on the right on every page going forward. So we see those listed here, the architect who stamped it, the licensed architect's stamp, or the seal of the professional engineer who stamped the plans will also be affixed here. Identification of the apartments and the address. This set of documents was used for the permit, so we see the permit approval right here. And then the title and the sheet number will be in the bottom right corner, and the date of revisions will be right here. These documents, if they're printed out, are typically on 11 by 17 paper. They're fairly large. So let's go over to, this is the second page in the set of documents. This is the index page. So index down here. This will show you all of the list of drawings here in this plan. So we see the introductory pages up here. The civil pages include like the topography of the site, how they are planning to connect to existing city utilities, erosion control, stormwater. Landscape drawings will include the irrigation and the greenery going around the building. Architectural drawings will include floor plans. It will include sections, cross sections of the building, exterior views from several sides, elevations, and then some of the interior details, like what kind of tile is going to be put in various places, what the finish is of the floors, things like that. The structural drawings will show the framing, the members of the framing, making sure that it's structurally sound, that it's going to stand. There might be seismic drawings in here, or those could be in a separate set of sheets. Usually what we're most interested in are the mechanical and plumbing drawings. In this case, they are kind of combined, although they do still have the M and the P separated. So the mechanical drawings are here, the plumbing drawings are right behind them. These will show all of the piping and the ducting going into the building, how they're going to connect. They'll show both the end use distribution equipment and the furnaces, the boilers, the heating and HVAC equipment that might be there. And then electrical drawings, as attractive as they sound for our line of work, are typically more concerned with the transformers, the wiring, the breakers, the outlets, usually just to make sure that they're safe and comply with fire code. Typically, what's
But you
also
can do a mean lighting count with electrical drawings.
you can. That is also true. In the electrical drawings, there will be a lighting schedule typically, and that will show you. It's usually either called an electrical schedule or a lighting schedule. That will show you all of the brands and models of lighting that is planned to go in. And we'll talk about the concept of a schedule a little bit later. Another thing that you can pull out of this introductory sheet is the building area. So here it has the total building square feet and then broken out by area. This is a multifamily apartment, so it has the number of apartments, the square footage of each apartment, total number of units, and the area of each. Another interesting thing that may be relevant depending on what we're doing with it is it will show the applicable codes. And this project was permitted under the 2012 International Energy Conservation Code. The most recent is 2018. But that will tell us exactly what the minimum efficiencies are if it's, and plans like this are required to meet building code of when they're permitted. So this will tell us the minimum efficiencies that are required by International Energy Conservation Code. And if we're interested, it will also tell us the classification of the various areas of the building. It will also show us some other systems that we might not care about, parking and other things. One interesting thing noted here is that they are pursuing an Energy Star certified rating and an Enterprise Green Communities rating. And if we have time, we'll go into that a little later. So I'm going to skip forward to the mechanical cover page. So this is sheet M1, notes and indexes for the mechanical system that's put together by PVE Engineering down here. Not a whole lot to take off of this page. It does have another index over here for these specific pages. This set of sheets will kind of give legends for what you would see on. If we were to go through the mechanical schedule or the mechanical plans, you would see floor plans overlaid with how all of the duct work was going to go in. You'd see a roof plan with how all of the HVAC equipment was going to fit onto the roof or wherever it might go in the building. And you would show the risers, the ducts, and the columns that would take all of that ventilation and heating and cooling air and distribute it through the building. We are going to skip forward to one important set of, probably the most important sheet on a set of documents like this, which is the schedule. In a set of construction documents, the schedule is simply a table showing all of the equipment. So a lighting schedule will show all of the lighting that's going in, and a mechanical schedule and a plumbing schedule will show typically the HVAC and the water heating equipment being used, as well as other things you might not think about. So for this document, There's a box here for the air handler. These are probably going to be serving common areas. Each apartment building is going to be served by a fan coil unit. And as we read this, we can see that it has a code. So every time in the documents you see FCU1, it's referring to this line right here. It'll show the volume, the total CFM is the volume of air to be delivered. OA CFM is the outdoor air, so the ventilation rate. It'll show the capacity of the heating section, the capacity of the cooling section, both in number of BTU, number of tons for the cooling section. And in this case, it will show the manufacturer and the model number right here. That will let you look up exactly what equipment it is. And it should show you the size of the fan. So these are small units, so they don't really call out the fan size, but down here on these air handling units, which are a slightly larger capacity, you'll show similarly the total volume, the ventilation volume, the size of the heating section, the size of the cooling section, and the size of the motor being used to supply that. The manufacturer and the model number. And some of these notes may include useful information like what the design conditions are, how it's going to be controlled, whether it will tie to a building control system or just have like a thermostat. And in this case, these are just the air handling side. It calls out the separate remote condensing unit over here. So because of the design of this system, the actual efficiency information is going to be found over here with the remote condensing units. So it shows the capacity, which is tied to the system it's serving, but then it shows the SEER rating right here and the HSPF rating. So the energy efficiency of the condensing unit in terms of the heating and cooling system, and then the model number is right here. And there are some other bits of information that would help us if we were actually installing this, but we aren't. So we can just kind of take what we need. What else we can see on this sheet, something you might not think about, specific equipment to handle the elevator, air conditioning of the elevator shaft. Exhaust fans in each of the bathrooms are going to be called out and specified here, what the exhaust air volume is going to be. For the trash chute, for the parking garage. The louvered penthouse schedule, the louvers, not things we really care about from an energy side, but they are called out here. And then in this case, there isn't a separate plumbing schedule, but we see the electric water heater is called out right here. So each of the apartment buildings is going to have this model of tankless electric water heater. And the common area in this building is going to have this model of storage electric water heater. And then this is the type of pump that is going to be used to circulate that water. So between what we can find on these mechanical schedules, we will know exactly what was designed to be installed, the sizes, the capacities, the make and the model, and oftentimes we'll find the efficiency. So this is an interesting sheet that is the certification criteria for an Energy Star requirement that they're going for. A lot of times they'll have like a facsimile of documents just copied and pasted into these construction documents. So if we wanted to know what they're doing to be certified for Energy Star, we could go through this. One other thing that's interesting to see in a set of construction documents is called the compliance check or the COM check. And that is typically where we can find information about what level of insulation is put into the walls, what the insulating ability of the windows are, what the U factor of the windows, the R. So COM check is usually somewhere in these construction documents. I didn't see it in these ones, but that's another thing that's commonly in these construction documents. All right, that's all I have to show. Don't know how much time we have, but if there's any questions.
Michael, I'm going to propose for today. First of all, thank you for that. I'm going to propose for today that we keep moving to our agenda, and we can build in ways to come back to construction drawing questions in future sessions.
Okay.
So with that, can we switch over to the agenda slide? I'm sorry, the slide deck.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so we will jump into the topics for today. So we're gonna talk about reporting and writing, and then we're gonna initiate lighting and follow up, finish up on lighting next week. So with the report writing, Michael, if you'll go to the next slide. I'm gonna introduce Shane here momentarily. I wanna set up this conversation and why I included it in today's, in class this spring, and as part of the nuts and bolts of giving you all guidance around parts of the assessment process. Both of the topics today, I'll just say that veterans could write this both off because they may think that you have it covered. And a lot of you do have it covered. I will say though, the reason I'm even talking about these is because in general, I see gaps in areas where we do need to grow as a team and as a program. So I'm asking not only for this information to be received by the newbies as they go into their report writing in particular, but also veterans. There are tips here that are meant for everybody. So in general, if you have hung out with me at all, you'll hear that I consider the reports an area of needed growth for the program. You've also, if you've hung out with me enough, know that we are promised through our program funders and field managers that reporting changes are in the works and coming. So we haven't made purposely system-wide upgrades because of that anticipation. In the meantime, that's been the conversation now for literally probably 2 years, or most of the time that I've been with the program. And I want to put out some guidance for individual AR writers and honestly report authors, typically the lead students, to help us drive this growth. So with the next slide, Michael, I'm going to introduce Shane and just briefly say that what I want to do is give you guys in my ask to help us as a team improve our report writing. I want to give you some resources for that growth. And the Marriott Library and Writing Center, you've heard Shane introduce himself briefly, is one of those resources. In short, Shane has ways to help you all with your research with regards to your assessment recommendations, as well as your writing. And by that, I mean style, grammar, spelling, and so forth. So with that introduction, Shane, I'll hand it off to you to talk a little bit more about those resources. And by the way, it looks like you're muted.
Yeah, I was just sending something into chat, so it wouldn't let me unmute. So I just finished up this quick PDF. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do a whole lot of a touring kind of mode. I'm mostly just going to chat at you for 5 minutes or so, but I'm going to mention a few different links to things. And I just was finishing throwing them into a PDF for you all, so that is in the chat now. It has a couple things in there. It has my contact information. So I will start with that here in a second. Boy, I wanted to respond to all of your intros. There's so many things I wanted to say that I can't even. And then I was having this huge flashback, Michael. I worked for about a year at IACers, the government agency in North Carolina. And I was on a committee where we were reviewing the life safety sheets and all the building documents. And I was remembering just looking at those things and being like, I wish I could read all these a little bit better. And there's just so much cool stuff in those sheets. So, okay. So again, just so you know, my name is Shane Wallace. The best way to get a hold of me, let me start by going there, is email, especially right now. Even under normal circumstances, I'm in my office off and on teaching a lot, but I'm very responsive with my email. What I'm doing this semester and recently a lot to help people are individual like Zoom meetings. So if you want to meet that way, I'm totally happy to do that as well. If you also call that number there and leave a message, I get it transcribed on my phone and everything. So I can always call you back that way as well. Has anyone here had any sort of formal library class or anything since you've been here at the university? Has anybody oriented you to the resources at the library at all? I'm kind of scrolling through the pictures here, seeing heads shaking. A little bit. Rashid, maybe you had something. So we typically at the library, we do a number of different kinds of classes. One thing that I do is I usually like to intervene in the first or second year, especially for undergrads, or the first year for grad students. And we do a training where I kind of orient people to the different parts of the library website and the things that are available there, because it can be both overwhelming, and it can also seem like I can't find anything useful. And both things can be true, and it's really important that we help navigate those for you. Just a couple things I want to mention, because again, we don't have a lot of time. We do at the library homepage, if you are trying to access materials, or you're curious if you can physically get into the library, if you want to check out a laptop or a hotspot, or you need to use a large scale printer for a project for the lab or something, you can get all the current COVID information at that link there. There are little status bars. There's like a dashboard, so you can find out what's open, what's not. The other thing I want to mention that's not always clear to everyone, especially early grad students, but anybody who's part of the university community, is if you are doing research for a project, you're trying to put together a report, if there is ever an article or a book or a piece of media, or usually, but not always depending on the price, but usually a standard, if there's something you need to get your job done, and especially if you're looking along and you hit a paywall, contact the library, because odds are we can get it for you. We may already have it. If we don't already have it, we'll try to borrow it for you. And if we can't borrow it, we'll usually buy it for you. And then if all that fails, librarians kind of have this, like, we have our ways of finding things too, if need be. So we really want to get the material to you. So if you're looking for information about codes or anything, let us know. And there's the link for interlibrary loan. That's kind of the first step if you're looking through the literature, for example, and you see an article or a reference to something that you can't find, at least in front of a paywall. If you just fill out that form with what it is you want, that starts the process of us getting the information to you. So no matter how obscure or whatever it is, if you spend more than a couple minutes trying to find it and you can't figure out how to get past the paywall, usually interlibrary loan can get back to you sometimes same day, but certainly within 24 hours. So just know that we'll get you what you need to get your work done. Couple of the things to know about the library website is there's a lot of ways to interface with it, because half of what it does is it serves marketing and trying to get people into the library, and we have lots of cool programming there. And the other half is how to actually access the research. And I like to say there are three primary ways to get into the library content. And the first is the catalog, the old school library catalog. We teach people how to locate it, how to search, how to filter with it. And that refers to all the things that we actually have at the library. There are millions of items that we have physically in the library. If you go in there, you actually don't see as many books as you used to, but they're still there. We have a big automated retrieval center, which is kind of like the Ark of the Covenant's place from Indiana Jones, with all these crates that they look, to a human observer, they're really obscured, but the robot knows where to find the right bin. So we have lots of things in the library, but the catalog also includes things that you have like single click access to online. As a student here, I also want you to know that it's entirely legal and kosher and cool for you to keep a single copy of anything that you get through the library. So that means you can pull a book, get a scan of it, you can download an article, you can photocopy a chapter, whatever it is you want to do, you can keep a single copy of anything you get from the library. So don't be bashful about asking for things and keeping them to help you in your work. The second thing on this list here on the screen are the subject guides. So this is something that not a lot of people know about. For every department or unit or body on campus, there's at least one librarian assigned. And every librarian has at least one graduate degree, often a couple degrees, and it may well be in the specific field. But part of our job is to not only liaise with these departments, but to also maintain subject guides. And those are sort of curated filtered lists of things related to a particular topic. I maintain the one for undergrads for chem engineering. There's not a lot there, but what is there is kind of filtered and makes it a little bit easier for you to tell what's available or what's appropriate for your work. The other cool thing about the subject guides, and there's a link right on the front page that says research guides. If you go in there and you search for a topic like anthropology or something, you'll see the subject guide, which says, hey, here's where to look in the library for stuff for you. Here's the databases to use. You'll also see who your librarian is and how to contact that person. So it's a great way to find out who it is you can talk to about a particular topic. Something else that's good to know there is that we have subject guides for things that aren't necessarily academic disciplines. So sure, you can look up chemistry or chemical engineering and see me, but I'm also the librarian for United States government documents, but that's not really a discipline. But if you are looking for census data or statistics from the EPA or something that's not really what you would consider to be a library holding, in fact, it's a government document, you might not find that through the catalog, but we do have a subject guide that not only tells you where to find some of those kinds of things, but also who to ask, and that would be me. Another example that might come up for you all are things like patents or things like that. Again, if you just search patent in the catalog, you're going to get a million hits that don't mean anything. But if you go in and do search for the subject guide for patent information, you'll find out who our two librarians are that can help you with that. And they're both super qualified. The third way to get to stuff in the library are the databases. So that's really the meat and potatoes of how most of the academic research work is done. We have over 400 of them that you have access to all across disciplines, and each one has its own flavor, and we teach classes for how to use them. So under chemical engineering, for example, your folks use SciFinder a lot for the chemical engineering part. Not so much for IAC, I imagine, but SciFinder is a complex database, has some tricks and specific ways to get to stuff. So we teach a class just about that database. So be aware that the databases can be a little bit confusing, but they give you access to stuff that you will absolutely not find out on the wild web. And some of them you do need training in. The primary medical one is PubMed, and I unfortunately have to teach that sometimes, and I can teach 3 hours about just how to use this one database efficiently. And, you know, nobody wants to sit through that. I don't want to teach it, but, you know, sometimes that's just necessary to get the level of expertise that you need with that database. So through the library website, I'm happy to walk y'all through anything or show you exactly where things are. Remember that the ways that you're looking for stuff is if you're looking for a book, an article, a journal, you can always start with the catalog. If you're looking for information about a particular discipline, check the subject guides, and then of course the databases. That's sort of way too quickly talking about the research enterprise in general. We can help anything from, you know, freshmen working on how do I log into the library and download an electronic book, to somebody working on a postdoc program where they need to synthesize some really complicated literature reviews for a meta-analysis they're doing. We can help anywhere in between with actually helping you framing your research question and acquiring the material you need. The other part of what you can get at the library is actually the Writing Center. And the Writing Center is a separate body, and it is physically located in the library, but they do everything virtual right now. It's just writingcenter.utah.edu. They have a staff of, I think, about 15 tutors and assistants right now. These are all people who most of them are grad students in the English department, but other departments around campus. And they can help you with your writing. And your professor and I contacted the Writing Center to find out what kind of help they can do, and the director confirmed they can assist with technical report writing. The best way to do that is to check out those links that I have there. You can go straight to the list of staff and see if anyone kind of has a discipline background that matches what you're looking for. You can also just go to their services page, and even though it says undergraduate services in the URL, they definitely help grad students and other bodies on campus as well. So You can check, see if there's a particular tutor to reach out to who can help you with your writing, or you can just send in a general request. Personally, I think it might make some sense to send in just the general request and kind of let them self-select who the right person is. But either option is available to you. I also talked with Anne, the director, in person a couple weeks ago about something else, and she also makes a claim like I do about how they are totally happy to help with anything from outlining, you know, what's essentially a 5-paragraph paper for a 3-page lit review for a freshman, all the way up to preparing, you know, your dissertation and making sure that all the citations and everything are coordinated and organized properly. So anything that involves gathering the information, organizing it, and presenting it, the library and the Writing Center can combine to help you with that. And I'll just throw my name out there one more time. I'm here as a point of contact for you. If you know that there's a topic, again, that is outside of my field, or you just would prefer to talk to somebody else, there are lots of ways through the library website to just contact the library. And it may be that even if you contact me directly, I'll have to connect you with somebody else, but I'm totally happy to do that. So that was super fast. Any questions?
I actually have a question.
Sure, what's up, Conrad?
Yeah, so I really love getting data from the EPA and looking at stuff like that. And I was wondering if you guys had, in addition to reading materials, spreadsheets with information or CSV files, anything like that? Or is your specialty more in helping direct us towards those resources where we could get those spreadsheets?
Well, it sort of depends. So like in the case of like EPA materials, most of the data they hold is available electronically through the website themselves. So what I can do is I can help you know the right place to look, know who to contact there. So it would be more a matter of giving you the fishing tools, right? And teaching you to fish, instead of actually procuring a particular report or a particular data set for you. Although we certainly do that as well if need be. So if you have a very specific question, this is something I do in the context of government docs often, where someone will be like, I just cannot find a copy of this particular hearing that happened in State Senate in 1972 or something, and I can't find it anywhere. I can help dig and find that kind of thing. If they're saying, you know, I'm looking for a good data set that's going to talk about pollution, wastewater, trans-soil pollution in fish farm areas or something, you know, I'm trying to think of something. If it's general like that, then I might be able to help point you in the right direction and help connect you with that. And then, you know, occasionally there are times where we'll just get really involved with the research with you too. And if you need help formulating a question at the beginning, then we'll help map you to the right resources as we go along. Does that help?
Yeah, no, it's super helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Shane. I would just say to the team, take Shane up on his offer for assistance. Michael, can you make a point to get Shane's contact information posted to the Slack channel in case folks want to do that?
Yeah, I'll have this document itself posted there.
Great. And also I wanted to tell the team that Shane and I are going to continue to work together from now through the fall semester to develop some more connections and resources for you all. I just wanted, in the meantime of that development, for you to realize that this is a resource for you. Other students have used the Writing Center to help with writing, for example, in the past. We're just going to work to make it a little more connected and systemic. So stay tuned for those things, but I appreciate you joining us for at least getting a kickoff for today, Shane.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me.
Hopefully you hear from folks soon.
Yep, very good. I'm afraid I have to dip out. Normally I lurk from these classes as long as I can, but I need to leave. So
you bet. Thanks again for your time. Okay, so we're going to have to adjust here a little bit. All good information, a little bit longer than I planned. The lighting stuff is our second part of the class agenda for today. We may have to come back to a little bit more of that next week than I planned, but all good. So let me pick up on the report writing guidance. So hopefully that information from Shane helped you. And honestly, if it helps you with your classes as much as your IAC work, that's mission accomplished too. There's all kinds of resources there that can help you with your AR development and or your writing. The second thing I wanted to say in terms of resources for helping us grow our professionalism in report writing is, if you have the chance in your writing, in your degree program to take a writing course, technical writing would be fantastic. Any kind of writing, even if it's not technical, I do strongly encourage you to do that. Especially for the new folks that are in their sophomore year, I've had questions about that in the past, and absolutely, if that's an opportunity for you, that will help you directly with your IAC contributions. The next resource I wanted to tell you about what is a new resource. Conrad, if you all may remember this, took up a class task last fall that helped us to finish out a style guide that was started a little while ago. This style guide is, you'll hear in the professional world, basically a style guide often helps to companies and teams to put together documents that a lot of people do repeatedly and a lot of different people add to a particular document. The purpose of the style guide ultimately is not to be extensively long. I tried to keep it as short as possible. I think I gave Conrad the 10-page limit, and I think he went to 14, but the point is, it's not 20, it's not 40, it's not 60. It's meant to be the high points of giving you some guidance on how to write reports and how to write ARs, so that ultimately we are elevating our professionalism in our report writing. And also we're being a little bit easy on our lead authors or our assessment student leads and putting the report together. So this style guide is in place. It's on Box. It's under assessments and templates, the directory. I'm going to ask Conrad really quick if we can show it. Michael, can you give Conrad the screen to let him just show the front part of the document so you all know what I'm talking about?
Thanks,
There we
Michael.
go. So there's guidance in there in terms of ARs, in terms of how to make, to be consistent between the different parts of the report and so forth. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of time to go into the details there, but we are going to do a scope of work related to this that will allow us to talk about it more next week. So if we can switch back from that then to the PowerPoint, I'll give you the other points of guidance for report writing. Thanks for navigating all this, Michael. So for report writing, a couple of things I want to just boil down. Remember, pro tips, the whole point of pro tips are to build your intuition about the work we do in a boiled down, quick way. So for report writing, based on my observation of what I see reports being, and also what I've seen in the private sector for reports that go to customers, I'll boil down two things that I think is applicable to everybody that is report writing these days. First and foremost, keep in mind your audience. Report writing for the IAC and for the reports that go to customers are noticeably different than what you're doing in your classes for homework. Remember what's important to your customer, learn what's important to your customer, remember what's important to your customer, and keep that distinctly in mind as you're writing. The second thing I would say is, for you that are writing drafts, recruit a resource in some fashion. I don't really care what it is, but think about getting another perspective on the stuff that you've written. And again, this is applicable to veterans as well as newbies. The Writing Center that Shane just talked about is one of those resources. Frankly, if you know a peer on the team that you think is a good writer, ask them to review your report. My feedback to this group is that more than 50% of the report writing we're doing needs that kind of review. Michael, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Okay, so that's crash course in report writing. We'll talk a little bit more about that style guide next week. For the rest of the time today, then we're going to switch over to talking again a nuts and bolts topic around lighting. And I just want to start off from the top and say a couple of comments based on the perspective I've had in this program, even over the last, basically since the time that I came on, and that was about 2.5 years ago. One thing is you may want to know why I emphasize lighting, because there's a perception oftentimes that lighting is the most technical content. That's my reference to differential equations. But I will make the argument that lighting is important for a couple of basic reasons and why you should care. Number one is if you're ever involved with anything to do with energy as a professional, energy management, energy efficiency, even renewables, anything in this field, lighting is a fundamental. It is ubiquitous, regardless of the application or the circumstance that you're going to be in. If you're asked to give this type of consulting, a basic understanding of lighting is going to be really important for you. The second reason I want to say lighting is important is oftentimes in energy management situations, it's helpful to put together an overall plan that has both fast payback items as well as longer payback ARs. And oftentimes, regardless again of the situation, the lighting is those faster payback items that ultimately help to pay for some of the other items that may be longer payback. So I hope that gives you a couple of reasons to care about lighting. So to support and grow your passion around lighting, we have a couple of new tools that I wanted to make sure you all are aware of. First of all, thanks to COVID, Rocky Mountain Power has put on some great online courses related to lighting. You'll see the link there. I'm sure we will also get that link posted to Slack because we're going to actually use it for some of our homeworks and scopes of work for next week. James has helped me check these lighting classes out a bit and vet it for the team. So I'm going to hand it over to him to give us just a quick preview. James, we're going to have to keep this to a couple minutes.
Okay, sounds good. We'll keep it really snappy. Can I share my screen really quick? I guess. Let me know if you all can see that.
So this is essentially the link. James is showing you the beginning of the education platform for lighting.
Yep. So I just dropped that link in the chat, but basically these are, if you go to that link, these are a bunch of videos that Rocky Mountain Power has made about lighting, and honestly they're awesome. Like, I've only watched a few of them, but as a 2.5-year lighting veteran, I can still say I learned a lot. So these are definitely going to be good resources for everyone. I'm not totally sure what our
I also think, just for the record, the content here is all new as of maybe 6 months, so it's definitely up to date.
Yes, definitely. So if you want to view these videos, you have to make an account, but you'll just come and click on one that you want to look at, and then you'll hit get this course, sign up, and then you'll just, fill out that easy. You've all made accounts before. The one thing that you will have to keep in mind is that it's not approved right away. So that's basically an application that gets sent to someone at Evergreen, who then has to approve your account and activate it before you can actually view the course. That should be done within 24 hours, especially if we give them a heads up that everyone's going to be doing it. But if it doesn't work right off the bat, that's why. So I've already done it, so I can just go log in, password, blah, 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 and then hit go to course. And then since I've already taken it, apparently I can't.
Hey, you already got a trophy.
And apparently you get like certificates for each of them, but anyway, oh, here we go. Yeah.
Welcome to the Trade Talent
So it'll take you to this, and then instead of one big long video, it's a bunch of small videos. So some of them are like 30 seconds. The longest one's like a minute, so it's kind of nice. But it'll take you to this main menu. You can go view like, oh, let's learn about LED instant incentives, and then it'll take you to that. Anyway, there's actually really a lot of good info, especially on incentives here. They've made some changes in the past year that are really helpful. One of which, just for example, is that historically, to be able to be eligible for lighting incentives, you are required to implement controls. But I learned in this video that it's new that there is an exception to that rule if you are also implementing a non-lighting efficiency project, which we always will be doing, right? So that is specifically for large customers. I don't know what their definition of large is, even though they talk about it. They don't like give numbers or anything, but anyway, good to know, super easy. Honestly, I feel like videos like this are usually kind of so-so. These ones I thought were great and really effective. So 2 thumbs up.
Awesome.
That
We
quick enough,
we were gonna watch one together today. We just have run out of time to do that. James, though, while you have the screen up, can you go back to the very beginning and just give folks a general overview of like all the different topics that are there?
Yes. So most of these are actually pretty relevant to us. So there was some really good basic ones on there. There's like a series kind of on facility audits. So it said there's one about like what you should prepare for an audit. And then there's some about retrofitting linear fluorescent lamps, which we do all the time. And then the difference between, you know, relamping, retrofit, or replace. Here's that preparation and toolkit. This fundamentals of linear fluorescent lamps I thought was actually really great, specifically because we don't delve very deep into how lighting actually works. And I mean, this is a really quick intro that just teaches you what a ballast is and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty useful. And then there's some about controls, some advanced network lighting controls, some LED dimming kind of stuff.
I think it's something like 18, right? Total?
17, yeah.
Okay.
And then the last kind of category I would say is incentive programs. And there's part 1, part 2, and then also that one we were just looking at that kind of gives an overview of the new updates. That was really useful. So anyway.
Okay.
That's pretty much what I got.
Thank you, James. While you're on that page, I'll just reiterate to folks, we'll talk about it here more specifically, but you will have to go to this website and set up an account. So to be able to do the LLC scope of work for next week. So I just wanted to point that out one more time while James is showing you the spreadsheet, the website.
I have a question on that really fast. Do you have to set up an account for each course, or is it just like the one account and then you have
It's
access
just
to all the
the one account. Yeah.
Okay.
And once you're logged in, you know, I'm logged in right now, so I have this course and I can go click on any of them and go ahead. So once you're in, you're in. Good question.
Good question, Abby. Any other quick questions about the website? Okay, fair enough. Michael, we'll switch back over then to the PowerPoint. Thank you, James. So for today, team, we have basically about 10 minutes left. So I'm gonna actually skip ahead to the scopes of work that relate to this content. And then next week I will come back and give you my pro tips on lighting assessments. Yeah, Michael, if you can go to that slide, perfect. What your group, so really quick, there are 5 groups here. We'll talk about specifics here in a minute. You all have done one scope of work at this point. This is your scope of work number 2. Basically what we're gonna do is 4 of the 5 groups are gonna take a look at the Rocky Mountain Power videos. And then one of the 5 groups is gonna take a look at the style guide and do a critique on the IAC, one IAC report. So maybe switch over, Michael, to slide 12 so I can show you all the plan for who's doing what, and then we'll come back and talk about the what a little bit more. So James, Jace, Tess, remind me of the three of you. What is your LLC name?
Experience Energy, I think.
Experience Energy. Okay, awesome. With an X,
of
right?
course, no E.
And recall everybody hear me okay? Okay, that was weird. Recall when we set up these LLCs, I asked you all to identify in your group of three role for each person. One person is the lead, so they're the ones that are coordinating the scope of work. There's a second person who's the scribe. They're the ones that is responsible for any documentation or written deliverable from the group. And then there's a reporter, which is essentially a person that's responsible for reporting or presenting any of the scope of work that you all do. So if you haven't assigned those roles yet, you'll want to do that for this week because they will all have relevant roles. And we'll also use that for future activities. But James, for Experience Energy, James, Tess, and Jace, what I would like you all to cover is the Rocky Mountain Power content related to the LED dimming. As I understand it, that was one of the longer segments of the online course. So the good news is, to the team, you don't have to go in there and review all of the reports. We're going to divvy these up and look at the various most important videos and then report back to each other next week. So don't worry about going in there and looking at, I mean, you're welcome to, but you don't need to review each individual course yourself. We're going to do that as a group next week, essentially. And Experience Energy is going to cover the LED dimming. Andrew, Abby, and Nuji, remind me what's the name of your team?
YA3.
Right. Very good. I like it. So you guys are going to cover the fluorescent technology component of the online courses. Okay. Ultimately, that's something like 3 independent courses. But generally speaking, they're all a lot shorter than the LED course. So you should be able to get through them pretty quickly. I will follow up on Slack and tell you the specific videos associated with fluorescent technology, but that's the topic that's in your course. And then moving on to Quinn, Rashid, and Sai. What is the name of your group? Who's the reporter for Quinn, Rashid, and Sai?
It's QRS.
QRS, how about that? So QRS, your scope of work for next week is going to be the online courses related to lighting incentives, similar to the fluorescent technology. There's about 3 of those courses that are relevant to lighting incentives. So I'll follow up and tell you those specifically in the Slack channel. Then Conrad Parker Brook, your name? Whoop,
We are the
back to
energy.
that table, please, Michael.
Which one?
To the table of teams. There you go. Conrad Parker Brook, what's the name of your team?
We are the energies.
Energies. Okay, so the energies are going to cover the content related to the lighting assessment practices and lighting controls. Again, like everybody else, I'll tell you specifically which ones those are. And then finally, the last group, Nestor, Lizzie, Mateo, what is your name?
M&L Consulting.
Okay. LMN?
M&L.
MNL.
Consulting.
Okay. All right. Your group is not going to have lighting to report back on next week. You are actually going to do taking a look at the style guide and a sample report and report back to us. And by the way, Blake is willing to support you all in that activity. It's something that he and I have been talking about a little bit. And so you could follow up with him on more, but regardless of the technology, or I'm sorry, regardless of the topic, Michael, if you can go back to slide 11, the ask, here is the scope of work for your LLC. You next week will do a 10-minute presentation on the topic that you've been assigned. And basically across the board, the general guidance for those 10 minutes is summarize the content that you reviewed. Two things. Number one, summarize the content you reviewed, whether it's related to a lighting technology, a lighting practice, or the style guide and report review. Summarize basically what your LLC reviewed. And then the second thing is, you all know this as well as I do, for that matter. And ultimately, you all are a mix of veterans and newbies. Present something like the top 3 to 6 things that you learn from what you review that you think is most important for the whole team to know. So each of the groups has a 10-minute presentation and some research associated with that to be able to do next week's scope of work. Keep in mind that this work is intended, each scope of work is intended to have a budget. And what I'm estimating for you all is, again, 2 hours per person or 6 hours total for your group for review and presentation prep. Make sense? Any quick questions, knowing that I will follow up with the lighting groups on specific Slack, on Slack with the specific titles related to the Rocky Mountain Power Training. All good?
All
Okay.
good?
Well, again, we'll get into lighting and some of the guidance I will offer to the group more next week, but I think that's a great stopping point. Look for those individual assignments in Slack, and we can call it a class for this week. And I see that we have a pro tip volunteer to go next week, so thank you for that. We'll resume pro tips as well.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay. See you all. Have a good weekend.
Thank
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
¿Qué hacer?